नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नाम्ने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Yes. So after a long time, anyone remembers in our last session what we discussed? Yes, anyone would like to share? In the last session, we covered some portion of Bhagavad Gita, second chapter. So earlier we saw how Arjuna he was lamenting, he surrendered to Krishna. Then Krishna starts speaking about the soul, what is the difference between the body and the soul. Further, Krishna he speaks about different yoga ladder. He starts from Karma Yoga. In Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga and Sakam Karma Yoga. And Nishkam Karma Yoga is nothing but Bhakti Yoga. And further, he talks about Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga itself. Now, I'll just open up. So, in the 53rd verse, Krishna, he was sharing when your mind is no longer disturbed by flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of the self realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So, Krishna was mentioning this. So, Arjuna is going to ask a very relevant question here. What are the symptoms of those of a person who is having this divine consciousness? How we can identify such a person who is having such divine consciousness? And also, in today's or further more session, we'll try to understand how a sage or a sadhu is identified by the consciousness, the mindset he is carrying, rather than the attire or a dress he is wearing. Nowadays, we see a lot of sadhus or a sage who come across and people get cheated by them. So many such cases are happening now and then. So we'll try to understand who is a true sadhu or a sage. What is the difference between both? So Krishna himself is mentioning in the Bhagavad Gita, and we can understand through these further verses of Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna himself is asking this question. So we'll chant this shloka. Arjuna Vacha
Arjuna
चित्तप्रज्ञस्य भाषा
समाधि
समाधिस्तस्य केशव
समाधिस्तस्य केशव
स्थितः देहि किं
स्थिता
प्रभाषेत
देहि किं प्रभासेत
किम् आसीत व्रजेत किम्.
किम् आसीत व्रजेत किम्.
Yes, anyone would like to chant this shloka?
Arjuna Vacho Sthita Pragnasya Bhasha Samadhistasya Kesava Sthita Dekin Prabhaseta Kimaseta Brajate Kim.
Yes, wonderful. Someone else?
स्थितप्रज्ञस्य का भाषा समाधिस्थस्य केशव स्थितधि किं प्रभाष्यत किम आसित व्रजेत किम.
Yes, someone else would like to try? Alright. Translation. Arjuna said, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? So, Arjuna here he is asking 4 questions. First, he is asking, what are the symptoms of such person? What kind of person whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? Consciousness merged in transcendence means a person who is having divine consciousness. His mind is completely absorbed in thinking of Krishna. Sthita Pragnasya, whose mind is completely absorbed in divine consciousness or in Krishna consciousness. That Arjuna is asking here. And such person is a sage or a sadhu or a saintly person. Brahmaji, he himself is telling when he offers his prayers, he tells Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hrideshu Vilokayanti. That Santa means a sage. His eyes are fully anointed with the love of Godhead, with the love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. That Brahmaji is explaining. Now, Arjuna is asking, what are the symptoms of such person? How to identify such person? And the rest of the verses of second chapter of Bhagavad Gita are going to cover this topic itself. How does he speak? What is his language? Means what? How does he speak means what? Arjuna is asking here, oh, his language, does he speak Chinese, English, Hindi, or what he is speaking? Is Arjuna is asking that question? No, Arjuna is asking, when a sage or a saint, he goes through the tribulation in his life, or he goes through various challenges, situations, how does he handle, how does he respond to such situations? Arjuna is asking about that. What is his language means how he responds. Does he responds very aggressively or softly, or what is his language? How does he respond to the world, rest of the world, or the situations? How does he respond? How does he sit and how does he walk? Now here also, is he going to sit in a different way than we sit? Or he is going to walk in different way than we walk? Does he have any shortage of leg or something that his walking is different from us? No. Arjuna is meant here. What is his nature? What are his practices? What are his achar? Achar means how he acts. About these things, Arjuna is asking. How does he respond to the objects? How does he accept fame, infamy, insults, All these things Arjuna is asking. How does he respond? Those things Arjuna is asking here. How to identify such person whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? This is what Arjuna's question is. Because there are so many people who take a attire or dress of a saint or a sadhu and they cheat the people. So Arjuna is not at all carried away by such thing. He is directly, that's why asking, how does he walk? How does he speak? Means how he is acting. This is what Arjuna is concerned about, so that he can figure out a person who is situated in divine consciousness. So very interesting purport. We'll read this purport. As there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, similarly, one who is Krishna conscious has his particular nature, talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptoms by which he is known as a rich man, a diseased man has his symptoms by which he is known as a diseased, or a learned man has his symptoms. So, a man in transcendental consciousness of Krishna has specific symptoms in various dealings. One can know these specific symptoms from the Bhagavad Gita. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks. For his speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak. And certainly, a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow as stated below. So here, just like to figure out a rich person is very easy, whether he is a rich or poor, one can easily make out by various aspects, like what kind of food he eats, where he eats, in what situation he lives, what all his likes, dislikes. All these different ways one can figure out whether a person is a rich or a poor. Or same way, doctor, he diagnoses a patient who is suffering from a disease based on the symptoms. What symptoms he is having. Like 2 years before, people, they were getting coronavirus. But there were some people who were having similar symptoms, but it was a viral infection, not coronavirus. So if we see, symptoms plays a very important role to figure out whether a person is diseased or not, or what kind of person he is. So symptoms plays a very important role. We say lakshana, what kind of lakshan, what kind of symptoms a person is having. Based on that, we can understand about that person. Same way, recently one person, when we were discussing, so he was also asking a similar kind of question. How to identify a sadhu or a real sadhu or a saint? That same question Arjuna is placing in front of Krishna. What kind of symptoms a person carry whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? So a person whose consciousness is merged in transcendence can be easily identified because he is always thinking of Krishna. He is always having his mind dwelling on the thought of Krishna. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So he is always remembering. His mind is always dwelling upon the thought of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever action he does, his actions are surrounded by that Supreme Personality of Godhead, in center with that Supreme Lord Krishna. Just like very nice example Prabhupada gave here, a well-dressed fool. Suppose there is a person who is fool. He is well-dressed, very gentleman he is looking. But as soon as he opens up his mouth, he speaks. And how does he is speaking? He is rebuking somebody, or he is insulting somebody. Like that he is speaking. So, or he is acting in a different way, or he is speaking very immaturely. So we can understand, oh, this person, something is wrong with this person. Even though he is looking very gentle person, there is something wrong. So it is very easy to identify with the symptoms. So now Krishna is going to tell all those symptoms, all those answers. There are 4 questions Arjuna asked. First question was, what was the symptoms? Second question was, how does he speak? Third question was, how does he sit? How does he walk? So, first question, what are his symptoms? That Krishna is going to answer in this verse. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmani Eva Atmana Tushtha Sthitta Pragnastadochyate. Translation: the Blessed Lord said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desire which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, he is said to be in the pure transcendental consciousness. So here Krishna is clearly mentioning what are the symptoms. So he is telling, one who gives up all material desires. What kind of desires? Which arises from the mental concoction. Which arises from the mental concoction. And second symptom Krishna is mentioning here is, his mindset finds satisfaction in the self alone. So, such person is self-realized. A person who is self-realized means he has understood his position. He has realized himself. What he has realized? That I am the part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when he is situated on that position as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, that gives him satisfaction. He is satisfied in that self. Because just like a fish is satisfied simply being situated in the water. When fish is in water, she is completely satisfied. But suppose you take out the fish out of the water and placed in some nice palatial building which is made of gold, so many these costly items, luxury items, fish will not be satisfied. Same way, we being the spirit soul, which is the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, when we are satisfied in the self alone rather than sense desire, sense enjoyment, that will give us satisfaction. Further, Krishna is saying, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So, two things Krishna has told. One is, he is satisfied in the self alone. Second thing is, he is free from all varieties of sense desires. And how this sense desires, idea of sense desire to enjoy sense enjoyment, how such desires comes? It comes from the mental concoction. All these desires come through mental concoctions. So that Krishna is telling, when one who has given up all such variety of desire will read the purport. The Bhagavatam affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness or devotional service to the Lord has all good qualities of the great sages, whereas a person who is not so transcendently situated has no good qualifications, because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental concoctions. Consequently, it is rightly said herein that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction. Artificially, such sense desire cannot be stopped. So, it is not easy, or some philosophies, they say we should be free from all the desires. We should stop desiring. We should stop desiring. So it is not at all possible, because tendency of the soul is thinking, feeling, willing. And out of this thinking, feeling, willing, desire is one of the aspect of the soul, living entity. But the soul cannot stop desire. That is not possible. Then what is the solution? That is further mentioned here. But if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then automatically sense desire subsides without extraneous effort. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation, for this devotional service will instantly help one onto the platform of transcendental consciousness. The highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. Such a transcendently situated person has no sense desires resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord. So, here is the solution. We cannot stop our desires. Desire is the one of the faculty of the soul, one of the energy of the soul. That is not possible to give up desire. But there is one thing which is possible. We can purify our desires. Rather than getting entangled in this material world with lot of suffering and miseries through those desires which comes out of mental concoction, we can get liberated from such desires. How? when our desires are purified. So how these desires can be purified? That Prabhupada says, when one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, when one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, his all desires will get purified without any effort. So how to engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness? It is very easy. Simply by chanting Krishna's holy name, we can engage in Krishna consciousness. By chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, we can get purified, because this holy name is Lord Himself. Second, we hear about Krishna, we get purified. Third, we speak about Krishna, we get purified. Fourth, when we eat something, we eat only Krishna prasadam, which is offered to Krishna, we get purified. Fifth, when we want to see something, we see about Krishna, or we see the beautiful darshan of the Lord, how Krishna is decorated, we can get purified. Our mind will become absorbed in Krishna. When we read about the pastimes of the Lord, or we read about the instructions of the Lord, this Bhagavad Gita, we can get purified. When we want to go so many places, we want to visit, we visit places which are related to Krishna, we get purified. We visit temple, we visit some holy place, pilgrimage, we get purified. So in these different aspect, we can get simply purified, because our senses are engaged in Krishna's service. So what happened? Automatically our desires will be aligned with the Krishna consciousness desire. We'll get Krishna consciousness desires. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation. Without hesitation, when we engage in Krishna consciousness for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, and that is known as devotional service. And Prabhupada is mentioning, instantly, immediately, instantly, will be situated on the transcendental consciousness, will be situated in the divine consciousness. And such consciousness, what is the benefit of having such consciousness? Such consciousness, one will free from all kinds of grief and all kinds of hankering. Krishna says, na sochati na kanshati. One will get free from sochati, means lamentation and hankering. One will get free from all sorts of grief and hankering. Hankering means I want this, I want that. So many wants, so many desires are there, which simply make us suffer in this material world. Further, the highly developed soul always remains satisfied. In this way, those who are elevated souls, they are satisfied, because they are situated on their constitutional position as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as a servant of the Supreme Lord. And that position is always, he is happy. Suppose in an organization or in a company, a person, he is working very nicely, very hard working, but one day he declares himself that I am the boss here. I am the boss here. So what happens? For some time being, he can fool some people, but as soon as his boss comes, his boss will chastise him, and immediately his position is subdued. He has come back to his original position. But if he works in his position very sincerely and seriously, he will be happy, he will be satisfied, and gradually he will get promotion also. Same way, when we situate ourselves in our constitutional position, what is our constitutional position? That we are the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mame Vamsha Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So when we situate ourselves in such position, we can get free from all sort of sufferings and all sort of material sufferings. We can get free. We'll read further. Dukheshva Anudigvana Manaha Sukheshu Vigata Sparaha Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Sthita Dhira Uniruchyate. So here in this verse, Krishna is going to answer the second question of Arjuna. What was the second question? How does he speak? So this verse and next verse, Krishna is going to give the answer of how such person speak. What kind of person who is situated in the transcendence. So that is Krishna is going to answer. One who is not disturbed in spite of threefold miseries, who is not elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear and anger is called stage of steady mind. So first thing is, he is not disturbed by threefold miseries. Second is, he is not elated when there is a happiness. He is not carried away by happiness. Third is, he is free from Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. He is free from attachment, Raga attachment, Bhaya fear, Krodha anger. He is free from these things. These three symptoms who is having, that person is a stage of steady mind. So what are these threefold miseries? Anyone knows? What are the threefold miseries? Anyone knows threefold miseries? So there are threefold miseries, means three miseries are there which are inflicted upon the living entity. These three miseries or klesha are, first is Adhyatmik Kalesha. Adhyatmik Kalesha means miseries which are derived from the self. Now, how miseries can be derived from the self? Anyone can answer this. How miseries can be derived from self? How we can get disturbed by ourselves? Please share. Yes.
Prabhuji, when we desire too much.
Okay, when we desire too much. Okay. Any other answer?
For example, we get angry on someone and we do some harm to our health also.
Okay.
Indirectly.
Okay. And other? Any other? Okay. So, Adhyatmik Klesha or the miseries which come from our own self are the miseries like anxiety. As mentioned, when we desire a lot, we get anxiety, we become anxious. Sometimes we get depressed or when we become angry, we create certain disturbance, or we get some disease, our body is not fit, our stomach is not feeling well, there is a lot of pain. That is misery by the self, misery caused by the self, adhyatmic klesha. Second comes adhibhautik klesha, misery caused by the other living entities, like somebody fighting with us cause certain pain, certain suffering, misery upon us. Or suppose nowadays rainy season is going on, some insect comes and bite, we get dengue or malaria, such kind of disease. These are the miseries or the suffering inflicted by other living entity. Sometimes another person is not at all listening us, we get completely disturbed. That is also misery caused by or suffering caused by another living entity, known as Adi Bhautik Kalesha. Third is Adi Devik Kaleshas. Any example? Someone?
Natural calamities.
Yes, natural calamities. Correct. So miseries or suffering which are caused by natural calamities like earthquake or some disasters, flood or tsunami, or in fact sometimes now this rainy weather is there, some people get disturbed by such weather, they get cold, they get viral infection or some sort of disease or sickness. That is Adi Devik Kaleshas, miseries or suffering caused by the nature itself. So a person who is not disturbed by these three faults, miseries, and second is the person who is not elated when there is a happiness. Sometime it happens, like recently, some 3-4 years back maybe, I heard one news. A person, he got a very big tender or contract, and he was so happy that he got heart attack. He got heart attack. So sometime happiness also cause suffering. We become so much happy by certain things that we get carried away. So he is not elated, he is not so carried away by such happiness also. And a person who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, such a person is a person of steady mind. And a sage is from the mind, not by the dress or not by the attire he is wearing, but by the consciousness. In the same dress like we wear, we are going to office, we are working, we can be a sage of steady mind, because it depends upon the consciousness, it depends upon our actions. We'll read the purport. The word Muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. It is said that every Muni has a different angle of vision, and unless a Muni differs from other Munis, he can not be called a Muni in the strict sense of the term. Nasau Munir Yasya Matam na Bhinnam. But Asthita the Muni, as mentioned herein by the Lord, is different from an ordinary Muni. the Sthita, the Muni is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all his business of creative speculation. He has surpassed the stage of mental speculations and has come to the conclusion that the Lord Krishna or Vasudeva is everything. He is called a Muni fixed in mind. Such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaught of threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, and thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds. And he sees that his miseries, by the grace of the Lord, are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness, and he realizes that it is due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and is able to render better service to the Lord. And for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active, is not influenced by attachment or aversions. Attachment means accepting things for one's own sense gratification, and detachment is absence of such sensual attachment. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness has neither attachment nor detachment, because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry even when his attempts are unsuccessful. A Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination. So very interesting purport. Prabhupada has mentioned a lot of important things. That a Muni is the one who has his own philosophy, which has comes from his own mental speculation. There are a lot of philosophies across the world. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhaunam janmanam ante Yanvan mam prapadyante Vasudevam sarvamiti saham atmasu dullabha. Bhaunam means after many births, when ones keep on acquiring knowledge. Bhaunam janmanam ante, after many births, Yanvan mam prapadyante, taking all different kinds of knowledge. Some philosophy says you are the God, you yourself is God, there is no other God, you are the God. Somebody says we all are the energy, we are some light, spark, energy, will get merged into another light. All such philosophies. But Krishna is telling Gyanvan mam prapadyante. After acquiring all the knowledge, when one comes to the conclusion and understanding, what kind of understanding? Vasudevam sarvamiti tam atmasu dullabha. He comes to the understanding that Vasudeva, Krishna is the all in all. He is the source of all causes. He is the cause of all causes. He is all in all. That Mahatma, that living entity is very rare. Krishna is telling. In fact, Lord Brahma says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. That Ishvara, Govinda, is the cause of all causes. When one comes to this understanding, he is situating on the highest platform of the knowledge. He is situated himself on the highest platform of knowledge. And when he is situated in that knowledge, and he realizes himself that I am the part and parcel of the Lord, when he acts on such platform, he is in safe and secure position. And such a person, Prabhupada is mentioning, is always daring and active. Daring means always he is taking different kind of risk. For what purpose? Risk for serving the Lord. And he is very active in serving the Lord, just like Srila Prabhupada at the age of 70. When he was very old, people, they think at age of 70 we have now become old. What is the need of doing any activity? At that age, he left Vrindavan, that holy land where all the people, they desired to live. He left such holy place for what purpose? To give the message of Bhagavad Gita to the entire world. While traveling, he got 2 times heart attack. He was having nothing with him. There is nothing that he was carrying with him. But he took all these risks to spread the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita for the welfare of the humankind, for the welfare of all of us. He took such risk so that people can get free from the miseries of this material existence. And such person is neither attached. Attachment, Prabhupada gives, attachment means accepting things for our own sense gratification. The things that we get accept for our own sense gratification, that is attachment. Or detachment means we reject those things, same things we reject. But Prabhupada says, or Acharyas also says, that person who is free from attachment and detachment is situated in the right platform. How one can be free from attachment and detachment? To develop the right understanding that everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything belongs to the Supreme Lord Krishna and should be utilized in His service. That is the Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. That is the highest level of renunciation. One is neither attached nor detached in that platform of life, in that stage of life. He understands everything belongs to Krishna, everything belongs to that Supreme Lord, and it should be utilized in His service. Just like again, an employee is working for an organization, he knows that all the resources belongs to the organization, so it should be utilized for the service of the organization, not for his own satisfaction. Just like many government employees, we see they use various facilities, various such resources for their own satisfaction, not for the service of the nation. That is cheating. Whereas if they utilize all those resources which are provided to them for the service of the nation, they will make progress. We'll read next verse. Yaha sarvatra na abhinehas tat tat prapya shubhashubham na bhi nandanti na dveshti tasya pragna pratishtita. So this is answer to that question only. What is that question? How does he speak? So Krishna is answering same second question. What he is saying? He who is without attachment, who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor lament when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. So what Krishna has told? He who is without attachment is primary qualification Krishna is telling. Who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor laments when he obtains evil. So if we see the same point, Krishna has told in different way in the previous verse, who is not elated when there is a happiness. So same point Krishna has told with different angle, different point of view. Because what happens when somebody gets happiness in his life or some good thing in his life, he get completely carried away by such happiness or good thing in his life. He get materially carried away. Whereas when somebody who has got something good in his life or happiness in his life, he should relate or connect that thing with the Supreme Lord. How? Suppose in the previous verse itself, Prabhupada has mentioned, when he has got happiness, he should think himself that he is unworthy of such happiness. But by the grace of the Supreme Lord, he has got such happiness. And one develops such humility, he will not get carried away. Or suppose he has got something good in his life, he should offer it to the Supreme Lord. Just like in the previous verses, Krishna was telling, when one gets the fruit for his work, when he offers that fruit of the Supreme Lord, that is devotional service, one gets free from the bondage. So he will not get carried away. We'll read further. There is always some upheaval in the material world which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good or evil, and evil is to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one is in the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil, because this material world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by the good or evil, because he is simply concerned with Krishna, who is all good absolute. Such consciousness in Krishna situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically Samadhi. So when one becomes free from all good and evil, so what happens? He situates himself in Samadhi. Just like Prabhupada, when he was having a pharmacy, he was a very big pharmacist. Prabhupada was a very big pharmacist. So what happened? His pharmacy, that factory, got fire. It was burned down. It got fire and it was burned down. So that time he felt very bad. But later on, he recalled that event and he felt very happy that if his factory or that pharmacy would not have got fire, he would not got opportunity to preach this message of Krishna consciousness. He would have remained attached to his family life. He would not have given up that family life, and he would not get opportunity to give Krishna consciousness to the entire world. So he was relating that it was the Anukampa, it was the greatest blessing of the Lord that he took away all such possessions, attachment. So devotees, he sees is bad or good in connection with Krishna, in relation with Krishna, and based on that, he makes further spiritual progress. His relationship with Krishna get more stronger, deeper, and he makes spiritual progress. Okay, so yes, anyone has any question or anything to ask? Any questions? So we'll end here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.